You're listening to Zero Hour, a Scarlet Rhapsody podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Zero Hour, the Anime Conventions podcast. Today's show, we will be covering Fanime Con 2019. Fanime Con has been around for 25 years in South Bay. Well, the South Bay up in Northern California. We're recording here in the South Bay in Southern California. And with us in the studio we have Jared the Greek, our copy editor.
Hey everyone.
And me, Eri Kagami, the editor-in-chief of Scarlet Rhapsody. So, let's talk some Fanime here. I went to my first Fanime back in 2003, back when it was at the Santa Clara Convention Center. And I was there for the first time when it was held at the San Jose Convention Center in 2004. And let me tell you, this con has really expanded around downtown San Jose. Not only you have panels over in the Fairmont, you also got stuff going on over at the Doubletree. Well, they have their adult programming at Silver Island over at the Doubletree Hotel, which we did not go to, but we'll get into that a little bit later. However, this con has been growing and it's been going on pretty strong. Jared, what was your first Fanime?
My first Fanime was 2008.
I was there.
It was kind of not a great first experience at Fanime. There were parts of it I liked, but there was a lot of stuff that didn't quite work out as well as I had hoped. Maybe it was because of who I was with, maybe it was because of some travel plan mix-ups of times, so I had to leave way early on day 4. Things like that kind of, caused some problems. Overall, Fanime has been kind of an up and down con for me. However, this year I think was actually in the up column. So
we had a lot of ups at this con, so usually every year we like to contribute panels to Fanime. And what panels did we do this year?
This year we ended up doing 3 panels. Make Mine Mecha, Call of Kawaii, Waifu Warfare, and History of Lupin III.
And all 3 went off without a hitch.
Yeah, they came together well. I was worried about Waifu Warfare because it was the first time we ran it, and not only did the panel go well, but everyone in the audience was getting excited, yelling out their favorite characters, asking us what our usual teams or combat strategies were and things like that, which is kind of fun.
So let's start off with how to get to Fanime. Well, while our friends did do the 5-hour drive from Los Angeles to San Francisco, or rather the San Jose area, because San Jose is about 1 hour south of San Francisco, so if you're listening from the East Coast, because we got some East Coast followers here, San Jose is about 1 hour south of San Francisco. If you're flying in, we usually fly into San Jose Airport, but for some transcontinental flights, you might be better off flying in San Francisco if that's an option, and take Caltrain down, then taking an Uber into the convention center. And that might sound like a pain in the butt, but if there's an option, flying to San Jose, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, San Jose is very easy to get in and out of airports. It's also nice for the return trip as well, because it's just not as
There's plenty of
hectic
food options too. If you're doing a return trip and you have some time to kill and you want to just if you want to go grab some food, like on the way out we grab food from Original Joe's, which is a restaurant like right across the street from the convention center in San Jose, but we usually opt to eat here because it's kind of been like our post-Fanime tradition to nom at Original Joe's and just kind of discuss what we felt about Fanime, how we really felt over meatballs.
Yeah, the meatball sandwich is amazing and requires a fork and knife. And then I think you had the spaghetti and meatballs. So
those meatballs are huge.
They are. They're the size of your fist. Great.
Highly recommend if you got some extra money to spare. I actually did like on the Fanime unofficial Facebook group, people were asking like, yeah, I'm planning to dine a little bit, kind of like more on the higher end side, like not so much like, yeah, Peggy Sue's, Johnny Rockets, but anything there a step up from it. And people were recommending Original Joe. It's like, yeah, that's not a bad place. Like if you have a little bit of money to spend on food, yeah, I highly recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, so we traveled from Los Angeles to San Jose Airport by way of Southwest. We booked our flights, I want to say back in January, February, where flights were like around about $150 round trip for each of us. So if you're flying, I would just say budget around $150. If you're driving, well, gas mileage may vary, but it is an easy 5-hour drive up the 5 freeway if you choose to take the 5 freeway.
Yeah, it's relatively easy to get to and a straightforward trip as well, via car.
And our lodgings were at the Fairmont. And this is usually your go-to hotel, Jared.
This is the first hotel I stayed at, and this is essentially my ideal hotel to stay at. Well, a lot of my other friends stay at other hotels, so stopping by their rooms always requires a trudge all the way back to the Fairmont. As a person who runs panels, and as a person who tends to attend panels, I like to be in the panel hotel. And it's so much easier to just go to the second floor and do all the panel things I want to do. I can run my panel and immediately go right back up to my room, drop off my computer, and just get back on with life. Versus if I was, say, in the Hilton or something, I have to walk all the way back to the convention center, get into the Hilton, go all the way up to my room, drop my stuff off, and then if I want to go back and watch a panel, then I have to go all the way back again, boomeranging all the way over there. And that becomes a massive hassle. The drawbacks to being in the Fairmont, of course, is if you like some of the convention center stuff, such as gaming, Stage Zero, cosplay gatherings, then it's not quite as convenient because you always have to walk over to the convention center area to go through all that stuff. If that's not a major priority for you, or if you actually want it to be a little bit quieter in your hotel, the Fairmont's a much better choice.
Alright, so let's get into day one. So after checking in and just kind of chillaxing and maxing in our room at the Fairmont, which was pretty huge because we had a pretty big bathroom because there were a couple of us who were cosplaying, and yeah, I just kind of need some extra space for, like, to put on makeup, to get all gussied up. And plus the beds were nice and soft for nighttime naps.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I did not like about the Fairmont, which actually did cost us some food that we brought with us, is they didn't have a refrigerator. Normally hotel rooms, they come with refrigerators.
Some do, some don't, but
usually anytime we stayed at the Fairmont, they usually had a refrigerator, because that's
yes.
where we would store our Trader Joe's salads.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt really bad, because I brought all this food from home in Tupperwares, and I'm like, where am I going to store these? And I don't want food to go to waste, Which resulted in us having to eat out a lot more. Which normally I don't mind eating out. I just kind of, I don't like food going to waste.
Yeah, for the day one, we could eat some of that food, and I think day two, we could pick away at a little bit of it, and then after that, it was just gone.
It was turning into another life form.
Yeah, and that really kind of screwed up our plans, and I didn't pack anything that was kind of like, like sandwiches that can survive outside of a fridge. I didn't pack anything like that because I didn't think ahead in that regard.
So if you're thinking about the Fairmont, while they did have an option where you could pay for, like, an additional fridge in the room, for some reason... Oh, that was the other thing I did not like about the Fairmont. Room service, or the lack of service.
Well, it looked like they were having some sort of dispute, so that could have been a problem with there, too.
But it also cost us not restocking on toilet paper,
yeah,
resulting some of our hotel guests to go to the downstairs bathroom to do their business.
Yeah, we had that problem, because it took us forever to even get towels, and then we're like, we need towels and we need toilet paper, because our toilet paper ran out, and they never restocked our toilet paper, and we called over and over about that, and nothing ever came of it. And I like, you could say what you want about the dispute, but this is toilet paper. Just knock on the door, hand us the toilet paper, and we can put it on the rollers ourselves, but we need the actual physical thing. And it's not one of those things where you can pack...
Because you don't think about it.
Yeah.
You don't think about, like, oh, hey, I'm going to bring some toilet paper because they're not going to restock on toilet paper. It's not like, yeah, because I know you had the idea of bringing your own towels to the Fairmont, which is always a wise idea, even if you are going to have, like, more than 4 people in the room, like to have your own towel.
Yeah, I always do that if I know I'm going to be in a room with, 4 or more, just because it removes the hassle and whose towels is whose, and, oh, did they replace the towels or not? I'm like, nope, I have my one towel, I'm good. But a lot of hotels I go to, sometimes they'll have a spare toilet paper under the sink area. There'll be a little zone there where they'll hold, some extra stuff. We also ran out of tissue paper, too. So anyone who wanted to blow their nose was also out of an option. And it was massively inconvenient. I've never had that problem before at the Fairmont. I think it's part of this dispute thing, but that made things significantly more difficult.
So, Fairmont, I would love to stay at this hotel again. However, this year just kind of like, okay, I can forgive the dispute. I would love to come back and stay at the Fairmont. But this kind of soured my taste with booking with the Fairmont again.
The problem with me is the panels thing, like I said before, it's a hassle for me otherwise, but at the same time, the fact that they've turned the refrigerator from a part of the room into we charge you for a refrigerator.
It's one of those refrigerators where you have to, like, pay to, like, eat out of it. They have, like, all the, hey, this is, like, the water that you can have, but you gotta pay us.
It's called a mini bar. And, yeah, you're right. They've replaced the refrigerator that used to be empty with a mini bar, and if you want your own empty refrigerator, now it costs you extra money. And that's definitely a frustration for sure.
Especially if you're bringing, like, food from home.
Now, if you're coming, say, driving over, you could always bring an ice box and put all your stuff in the ice box, and you'll basically be fine. But for those flying out, that's not so much an option, because taking an ice box on a plane flight is not a convenient thing to do.
So let's go to day one programming. Jared, let's kick us off with your panel on Mecha.
Make Mine Mecha was one of the first panels of the convention, so had a pretty decent show up for the fact that not only was it the first panel, but there's still people in the registration line at the time. And this is, I think, the first time, maybe the second time I've run it on my own. Usually I have Stan there, because there's certain series that Stan knows a bit better than me, and trying to catch up on every little show is a daunting task. So I think I did a good job talking about all the various things and added in some new subjects. And while I always want to add in more stuff, especially as I'm considering adding things from the early 2000s, it gets to be significantly more complicated because I only have a set amount of time to talk about everything. But I did a good job. I had a lot of people coming up to me afterwards asking me different questions about my thoughts and feelings on different things, including the inevitable, what are your thoughts on the Nadesco movie? And I'm like, ugh, do I have to get into this?
Yes.
And I did. I had people, ask me thoughts on different Gundams, which ones I like, which ones I don't like. And yeah, it was pretty cool that everyone seemed to enjoy the panel. I'm glad I could hopefully introduce people to some old school 70s and 80s stuff that they might now have an interest in checking out.
All right, so I checked out a couple things on Friday, including I got a bit of opening ceremonies and a couple of the Stage Zero shenanigans. So I caught in when they were promoting CWF, and this time around they have something called the 24/7 belt, and this belt can be worn at any given time. So with the 24/7 belt, we had Winter Soldier on stage, and we also had that annoying Matt Ishida. So Winter Soldier decided to just take that belt from Matt Ishida and just kind of walked off with it. And then CWF, they were showing videos like throughout the weekend of just various CWF characters just taking the 24/7 belt around the con. So that's like a fun little thing that they did.
Yeah, and this is parodying off of a thing that WWE has been experimenting with a similar concept. But I think the CWF version is probably a bit more fun since the WWE one, for some reason, all they're trying to steal the belt things just happen to coincide with every time they have a show running. What are the odds?
So definitely follow CCWF for more 24/7 belt shenanigans.
Because I bet that's going to start happening at other cons where they might not have a main show, but they'll be able to have a little.
Because they were also running it at a SAC Anime. Like, Mario is just chilling there, and then Giovanni's like, "Hey, I kind of need that."
Yeah.
And then I also decided to check out the old school cosplay meetup. I was cosplaying as Fujiko. Oh my goodness! I think my count is at 5, so I don't want to give the rules to this. Let's just say I play a counting game anytime I cosplay as Fujiko in her cat suit. The current number for Fanime is 5 because of Endgame.
Come on, people, we can do better. Next year, let's aim for 10.
Well, there is a movie about that character that will be coming out. So...
Well, yeah, we'll see when that gets done.
The count might rise then. I don't know, but I got a lot of people like, hey, beep, hey, beep.
I like how you
I had to bleep out the name. Because if I tell people, they know what the rules to the counting game is.
I see. I understand now. I apologize.
So the current count is at 5, and it doesn't help that Endgame got out before Fanime. But Endgame is an awesome movie, nonetheless. So ended up costuming as Fujiko at the old school gathering, and we had some pretty cool characters show up. We got Ryoga Hibiki, we got Char Aznavour in his disguise. Quattro, that's his name. We also had...
Oh, the big 80s sunglasses?
Yes, the one that... The version of Aznavour I wanted to make for you because I think it would be funny. And then there was also Bible Black. We had a couple of Utanas. Anything that was, like, made before, like, the year 2000 was very much welcome at the old school gathering. So we also had your Evangelion, Children. We had, like, a Spike Spigal quartet.
Huh.
Which I thought was pretty cool. We also got Yusuke from Yu Yu Hakusho. We also got Larva from Vampire Princess Mew. So I was also hanging out with some of the Lupin gang people. And speaking of CWF, I was also hanging out with like the Lupin and the Jigen from that CWF. So I got like selfies with all the Lupin cosplayers. And that was a lot of fun. And I highly recommend checking out the old school gathering because it's people in our generation, the later millennials, that grew up with Cartoon Network's Adult Swim. If you grew up watching Cowboy Bebop that late at night, or like even back in the fan sub tape trading era, it's pretty much people in that age group, and you can really like just nerd out over like classic anime with a lot of the types that show up to these. And of course, the Adult Swim titles are gonna be like the most popular present over there, but it's like that for a reason. But if you're looking for... If you want to get away from the kids and their idols, this is probably a good place to like just meet people.
I lamented not really having anything that would work for that because I thought that would have been kind of a fun thing to do. I was hoping to go as Koji Kabuto, but that just didn't come together. It would have been fun to go as Hot-Blooded Hero Koji Kabuto.
I also decided to check out Idris's Closet. Now, this is a part of the Fanime Ballroom Dance. Idris's Closet... Think of it as like a vintage consignment store, kind of like a vintage version of Goodwill, because I've seen vintage pieces sold at consignment stores going for like upwards $30, even $100. So they were selling like prom dresses from like the 80s, 70s, and a couple like retro pieces as well, so that people would have like something nice and formal for the formal dance. So that was very nice. And not only they had women's dresses, they also had shoes, they also had menswear, and yeah, and they even had like a service where you can also just do some alterations. So I thought that was a really cool service that Fanime had. And I was even looking around and, oh yeah, they even have jewelry. And as a vintage collector, I was kind of tempted to like maybe snag a few pieces, but at the same time, it's really for the people who probably wanted to go to the Fanime Ballroom Dance, but didn't have anything to wear. And I thought this was a great service they have, especially if they offer a service like alteration as well. So I wanted to give that opportunity to people to spend their money on this service. And who knows, maybe next year I'll donate some of my vintage pieces to Idris's Closet, because it's a really amazing thing that they have going on at the Marriott. We also had some very interesting people, protesters, if you will, show up at Fanime. Well, religious protesters, they show up every year, people troll them, they play Get Low by Flo Rida, which I'm not going to complain about. Okay, it probably wasn't Flo Rida, it was probably someone else who's saying that. Lil Jon and Friends. Yeah, it's like Lil Jon and the Yin Yang Twins, and everyone just kind of just busted up singing Get Low right in front of the religious protesters. It was, like, glorious. It was amazing. However, I think the ones that got to me a lot more, because I'm just kind of used to, like, religious protesters, like, just trolling. Okay, they're just here for attention, and they want you to provoke them. Okay, I get it. I'll ignore you. Was these, I guess it was PETA. They didn't have a sign saying they were officially PETA, but they were wearing the Guy Fawkes mask, and they had, like, HD TV screens, like, right in front of them, showing pigs being slaughtered right in front of the hot dog vendors. Now, they were doing this in a public space, and while it was outside of Fanime, it was right by a space where there was a lot of foot traffic going into the convention center and to the Marriott. And Fanime is a family-friendly convention. A lot of people bring their kids to this thing, and also there's people like me who's very sensitive, like seeing animals being slaughtered. It's just pretty much, or anyone, no one wants to see gore in the middle of the street in daylight. So eventually I decided, like, let me just tweet this out to Fanime because this isn't cool. And thankfully, for the rest of the weekend, they were no longer there. So, yeah, I always kind of believe in something like, see something, say something. And thankfully, Fanime took care of that.
Yeah, my Friday, unfortunately, I had a severe headache, and for the most part, I didn't really do a lot. I spent a lot of time in the room just trying to recover. I know I hit a panel of sorts. I'm not entirely certain which one it was, unfortunately. But it was kind of fun just kind of wandering around getting my bearings while trying to have my pain go away.
We also did Waifu Warfare Call of Kawaii in the evening. And right before that, you sat in on a Gunpla model building panel.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the panel was focused on doing things beyond making the model, which I thought was pretty cool. Ideas like adding burn marks to a shield to look like it's taken some hits, or adding bullet holes onto the side of the mech, or making dioramas. So if you want to have your Gunpla sitting there reenacting a scene from the show, you can do that. And he was talking about different methodologies. What's the type of sand you should use? How should you glue it to the box? What kind of what kind of models you want to use for the plants or for the building and things like that. And it was really interesting. And it's kind of cool knowing that there's a group of the model makers who aren't just, I'm going to have this big pile of robots on my shelf, but actually want to have them battling each other, because that's what I kept saying I wanted to do, is I wanted to get the various characters together and have them all verse each other. And so for me, I have the RX-78 and I have the Golf, the Rombaral Custom, the blue one, so that they can actually verse each other. And that's, and then if I did this right, I could get myself a nice little area, set it up like the desertish area they're fighting in, the rocks, and I could just I could have them reenact, this is no Zaku, boy, no Zaku. And then I could have the photo of that and then post that, and then I could be one of the Gundam memes.
And the Call of Kawaii Waifu Warfare panel went out pretty well. We had a pretty full audience for a Friday evening. Our buddy Richie decided to also tag along. Well, it was his idea to begin with. So Richie had this idea of doing like a waifu panel based on military-based anime, video games, especially in the mobile game category, where we got Girls Frontline, Kantai Collection, Azure Lane, which I swear and live by. And it was a lot of fun. I think, we could have done a couple tweaks here and there, because I was also super busy with work. And for some reason, the PowerPoint still had a couple of typos. I still like the Army slide, where I know I typed down Army, but for some reason it had the letter Y instead of Army.
Well, the problem was, you did a version, and then I edited that version, but unfortunately, Richie did his own edit of that version that didn't fix any of the typos. So you had my typo-edited one, but was missing certain slides, and his version with the slides in there, but the typos hadn't been changed. So we need to find like a middle ground one, or I need the copy of Richie's old one and I'll fix it. But that was one of those little minor things that became a problem. Easy enough fixes, and next time we run this panel, I can basically do that. Plus there's a few other series I want to throw in there, like Lyrical Nanoha. Now that I kind of know what the panel is, it's easier to come up with what shows and games you want to throw in there that would actually expand on the material.
Alright, let's dive into Saturday.
Saturday, thankfully, was a lot better. We actually got invited to do the Fireside Chat by Rob Miles, which is something he does each of the 3 mornings of Fanime at Stage Zero, where he talks to various people about their experiences with anime and otaku culture and stuff like that.
So I decided to wake up a little bit early, head into the convention center where there was barely anyone there, and just while waiting for Rob Miles to start at Fireside Chat, we were watching this one guy stream this Jurassic World simulator. It's kind of like Roller Coaster Tycoon, but Jurassic Park.
There actually was, back in the day of the original Jurassic Park, there was an unlicensed dinosaur theme park game. And I always wanted it. I played it once at it was at my school or something, and they happened to have it, on one of the computers. And I was like, why don't I own this? This would be my favorite game in the world. And then, never got it. And I think they eventually may have done a Jurassic Park licensed version of that. I'm not sure. But this was a Jurassic World licensed version of basically the same game. However, it also had, if the dinosaurs escaped, you had to go, hunt them down and things like that, which is kind of fun. Because now we're at the technology level, we could do that. And various little tasks, like you would have in any of these games. Oh, make this kind of thing, or expand to this area, or research, new types of dinosaurs and what have you. But it was pretty cool seeing that, and you actually get voice clips from the movies there, because I know we heard Ian Malcolm at one point making a little comment, and I think we heard shoot, I cannot remember his character's name. We have Guy Manley, played by Star-Lord, making some commentary as well. I don't know his character's name. I mean, like the pitch meeting version of Jurassic World, the character names are kind of irrelevant in Jurassic World. There's Guy Manley, and then there's like Business Lady, and you hear both their voices.
So basically, we went on stage during the fireside chat, and Rob Miles wanted to ask us what was our first Fanime, how long we've been doing Scholar Rhapsody, how long we've been doing podcasting, and just talk about anime we were watching. So it was just kind of like a casual Q&A with us in front of the stage, and it was cool because we did have an audience there because there were people just waiting for the dealer's hall to open because it wasn't going to open until like 10 a.m. So people were just kind of like just filtering in and just kind of like, yeah, let's just kill time here at Stage Zero. Just watch these old nerds talk. So that was a lot of fun, just having that opportunity. And again, shout out to Rob Miles and Stage Zero for pulling this off, because anytime you need us, be more than happy to help y'all.
Yeah, and I always wanted to do more Stage Zero related stuff. I just never knew kind of what I wanted to do, and being able to be part of this panel is kind of cool, because I usually, especially if I'm staying at the Hilton or something, watch the fireside chats, because I'm usually up already, and nothing really starts till about 10 o'clock-ish, so that gives me the chance to always see some Stage Zero stuff. And
I mean, we're so old, like, getting up at 8 a.m. It's like, yeah, we're fresh as a daisy, but we're already tired by, like, 7 o'clock in the evening.
Well, the thing is, we can't shift out of work mode. So when you have to wake up at, 6:30 for work, it doesn't matter if you're at the con or if it's the middle of summer vacation or something, your brain still goes, hey, it's 6:30, it's time for work.
It's every day, bro.
It's every day, bro.
All right, so the thing we did after that, well, we went back to the hotel room. Fairmont, they actually did have, like, this bottomless mimosa thing that we wanted to try out. So we did. It was like $25 a pop. So if you're curious about the bottomless mimosas at Fanime over at the Fairmont, $25, and like, yeah, we kind of had a few.
We made sure to get our $25 worth. Unfortunately,
those are strong mimosas.
All we had to eat was like a couple pastries. By a couple pastries, I mean one apiece. We each had one pastry that we ate, and then we went through 5 or so, maybe more. You lose count if you keep drinking.
And then we went to the dealer's hall.
I think we actually did. Did we do the boat gathering first?
Oh yeah, we did. There was the Azur Lane meetup. So Richie, our cousin, decided to do the Azur Lane / Contai collection meetup, and you were cosplaying as.
I went with a vintage U.S. Navy Admiral's uniform to represent Eagle Union, alongside my stuffed eagle, Sam.
And I went as CV6, aka USS Enterprise, who was like the most decorated ship of World War II. Thank you very much. I should wear like some of the replicas of the Medals of Honor the Enterprise had, because Enterprise also had a couple medals from the Philippines too.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up just representing that, and there were 2 other Enterprise cosplayers present as well. So like, yay, we can be a triple threat. There were more Azur Lane cosplayers than there were Content Collection cosplayers, only because I feel that the Content Collection fandom is dying down. Because, like, yeah, make way for Azur Lane. Well, that's what happens when your game is much more accessible, and yeah.
Also, it helps that there's ships from a lot more countries, so it gives a little more variety of what you can do. Versus, Contai being mostly Japan with a couple American, a couple European ships, and kind of that's it.
I think my favorite part of the meetup was, okay, like, let's have American ships versus Japanese ships. And I was just trash-talking the Sakura Empire ships. It was like, you know what, our planes are better than yours. Yours are made out of cardboard. And then people in the Sakura Empire, because a lot of people are into Azur Lane and these types of games, are also history buffs too, especially military history buffs. So one of the guys on the Sakura Empire is like, you know what, yeah, you're right. Your Mustangs are far superior. Like, thank you.
But that they could produce the Zeros a lot faster than we could produce a Mustang. Because they're made out of, cheaper materials.
Cardboard. It's called cardboard, Jared.
And wood. Or just purely cardboard. You couldn't withstand flight for that long if they're made out of cardboard. But yes, they were very weak planes that got shredded apart like nothing.
We went to the dealer's room.
That was fun. I didn't realize that going to the dealer's room buzzed is the greatest thing in the world. Everything is awesome, and all I needed was my iPhone playing that song from the Lego movie to make it better.
I'll add that to our Fanime playlist.
Because I was just looking at...
we were a team, you know? We were Evil Union.
Yeah, everything's cool when you're part of a team. But it was fun looking at stuff like... For me, figures have kind of lost a lot of luster because a lot of the series I like don't get figures anymore. And a lot of it's to newer stuff, and most of that newer stuff I don't really care that much about. But, you know, we're looking at... They saw the set of jackets that were Lunar New Year, you know, related things. So they had the Year of the Dog jacket, which looked pretty sweet. And went to other places that had hats, other places that had art books, and I mean, it's all the stuff you normally find in a dealer hall, but like when you're buzzed, you're like, oh man, let's totally look at art books, woo! And stuff like that. I think you got that Azur Lane art book.
Yes, I actually did make a purchase, well, cosplaying as Enterprise, because I hardly see like Azur Lane merchandise, and I'm pretty sure that's going to change when I'm an AX, because I'm saving all my money to get all the Azur Lane merchandise. No joke. And I found the Azur Lane art book, and I'm like, yay, I'm giving you a good home. And that was my favorite purchase of Fanime 2019.
I made no purchases, but it was fun. I had fun kind of walking around and looking at stuff, and even the crowd didn't bother me because I was buzzed.
Yeah, the dealer's hall was, there was a lot of variety this time around. You had, like, your places that sold, like, cat stuffies and, like, a lot of cute-looking stuffies. Mm-hmm. And you also had, like, just some people who, like, sold jewelry. I got my Wayfinder necklace from one of them. You also had, like, a lot of people selling, like, the rubber keychains for Ita bags. So you had, like, a lot of people selling those. You had a lot of people selling Ita bags. It was kind of cool, just kind of, like, just going through the dealer's hall a couple of times. And I think my favorite part about the dealer's hall was the food. So we had takoyaki for 2 of the days of Fanime. Yeah. Even on day 4, when the octopus ran out and they had to change it to meatballs. But even then, it was still good stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty good meatballs.
It's a pretty good, like, light lunch or a midnight snack. So highly recommend checking out the takoyaki at Fanime. And they also had the Wild Bill soda. Didn't have a chance to check them out because there's always a line over there. And plus, like, I think we were just carrying, like, a bunch of stuff. We didn't have time to carry around Stein glass around the con. Mm-hmm. Because they had the refillable Stein glass. And I also think the fact that, like, we had, like, not just the mimosas, we had access to, like, a ton of drinks in our hotel room. What we were jonesing most for was actual food.
Yes.
So, like, takoyaki, that really helped.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that was just kind of, like, just our biggest thing with Fanime. It's like, yeah, we've been drinking sodas, we've been drinking quite a bit. Not necessarily alcohol. It's like, we just need more sustenance.
Yeah, they say you need water to survive, but if water's the only thing you're having in your system, it starts to not taste that great and kind of makes you feel worse.
Thankfully, there's restaurants like Peggy Sue's that we decided to hit up right down the street. And also Johnny Rockets wasn't too far from hotels. In fact, it's practically across the street. Mm-hmm. I mean, Johnny Rockets, it's not really my go-to because most of the time when I'm at Johnny Rockets or like it's feeding time, Johnny Rockets is always, it's always full. It's like, okay, and usually when it's full, service, the quality dies down. It's like, oh, I'll just wait till later in the day. And we went later in the day. Yeah, solid service.
Which is always nice.
All right, so what else did we do on Saturday?
Well, that's when we ran our Lupin the Third panel, which turned out very great. This is a updated version, as we always try to update it. And unfortunately, one of the updates we had to put in was, of course, the death of Monkey Punch, which is
sad.
Very sad. And we threw in a bit more of some of the new stuff that's been coming out. And overall, I think it was a really good run of the panel. And, you know, I don't know what the future of Lupin is really going to be, just because things are, you know, when the original creator dies, the franchise doesn't die too, but I don't know how it's going to affect the franchise going forward.
A few other notable things I did on Saturday is I went to the Love Live meetup. I was cosplaying as Nozomi in her dirndl, and people from the Love Live Facebook group actually recognized me. I was like, oh hey, like, oh yeah, you're the one who made their dirndl. Like, yes, I did. So, for those of you not familiar with terminology, I made Nozomi's Oktoberfest style outfit. It's known as the Unidolized Wizard outfit, but basically it's her in an Oktoberfest outfit. And in Germany, we call those dirndls. I've always wanted to have a dirndl, but I didn't want it to look like a Halloween dirndl, because real dirndls during Oktoberfest are high quality, and they are amazing, and they're very pretty. And I'm like, okay, I need to make my own. So I ended up making Nozomi's dirndl. And like, hey, I look awesome. So I had like a lot of people like even after me like, oh yeah, can you tell me more how you made it? Like, yeah, can I see your vintage roses up close? Because I had like vintage rose applique on me just so I can make it look more rustic, a lot more old world style. So I'm still not used to the idea of having cosplay followers, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions about costume making. So I was just kind of on that cloud for a bit. It's like, yeah, I can like talk about costuming, and I like people who are interested in learning how to make stuff, because that really makes me happy when like, oh, I want to learn how to do this, and how did you do this? I'm like, okay, I like these conversations. After that, I discovered the Fanime Museum, which was on the annexed building, and it was I think this is the first time they're doing the Fanime Museum to coincide with their 25th anniversary. So they have an archive of old Fanime posters, an archive of Fanime programs, and there's even a section where they had like a typewriter where you can like just type out your Fanime memories. And like, hey, that's kind of old school having a typewriter there. And of course, there had to be the one person who had to put the quote from The Shining on the typewriter. That's not ominous at all. All work and no play make Jack a dull boy. Repeat, repeat, repeat.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of cool, just kind of seeing like all the history of Fanime, just kind of seeing some of the old banners that are usually placed on the streets during the con, and just kind of like to seeing the evolution of Fanime. And they also had like a program from AnimeCon '91, and I decided to take some screenshots and just kind of take photos of what's inside the program. Just kind of see like, oh hey, Red Lion Inn, just kind of see what that was like and what kind of panels were available, and just kind of like what were the ground rules. So it's a very interesting piece of anime history. And I don't even think the Anime Expo equivalent of this has the AnimeCon '91 program. So it's a special treat. And for those of you who don't know, AnimeCon was the predecessor to Anime Expo. And it's one of the first... Jared, you can... Is this like the first AnimeCon ever? Like anime convention? Okay.
First would have been... Oh, goodness.
Yamamoto-con in Dallas?
Yeah, Yamato-con.
But wasn't that, like, more focused on Battleship Yamato?
But it was the closest thing they really had to anime at that time. And they did 2 Yamato-cons, and then Project A-con started in 1990, AnimeCon 91, obviously 91, and then from there we started getting an influx of a lot of other stuff. But, yeah, if you want to go back to the 80s, there's also an original Animagic that isn't the Animagic that we used to have in California. It's also a Texas con. Texas loved their anime before anyone else did. It's very bizarre. Just because Texas isn't the place I would think of for, like, anime fans. And I know there were 2 U.S. anime studio, what do you want to call them, publishers over in Texas at one time with ADV and what have you. But it still seems odd to me to think of Texas as a location where people are like, oh man, let's start an anime con. And yet, they did. As for me, I was running panel hopping most of the day after getting back from Dealer Hall Adventures. And for me, I got to see Gerard the Completionist again do another panel. That was actually a lot of fun, just hearing him talk about stuff. And he's a really upbeat guy. This is like the 3rd time I've gone to one of his panels. But it's always fun. It's always interesting hearing the questions people have and how he starts setting groundwork. Like, do not ask me about, am I going to play this game? Odds are, yes, I will. And talking about some of his goals, kind of how he got there, the path he was on. Was being I believe he was a film student and he was doing some PA work, and then there was like a strike and he started doing this gaming stuff, and then it kind of just rolled and rolled and rolled, and now it's its own little mini empire that he has. And so that was pretty cool. I also saw really silly stuff like 5th Gen isn't real Pokemon, where these 2 guys basically did kind of like a tongue-in-cheek, let's make fun of Generation 5, and how it was kind of a stagnant zone. And, like the designs aren't visually appealing, though a lot of Gen 5 stuff is actually really high in the meta. Maybe not so much anymore, but it was for a while. But the designs are not particularly visually appealing. How the game itself didn't add any new features that weren't already in, Generation 4. If anything, it took stuff out, like the contests. And it was fun watching them just kind of rip on it. The audience, you could tell, like, some people were kind of in on the joke of, like, yeah, let's just make fun of this one generation that's not that great. And then other people were kind of like, these guys are jerks and hate Pokemon, and, like, were storming out. So it kind of interesting seeing the different responses people had. I really do like panel hopping. It is a fun thing to do, and I had so many weird panel adventures at Fanime this year. And I do appreciate that, because that really helped make this a much more fun experience for me.
So let's go into Sunday. So on Sunday we decided to, we have a friend, her name's Jonelle. She is one of the maids at the Maid Cafe, and she's like, yeah, you guys gotta come out to the Maid Cafe. I'm like, okay, we haven't done Fanime Maid Cafe in quite a while. So she recommended we'd use the Shinkansen Pass, which is pretty much a fast pass to get into the Maid Cafe without waiting on the standby line, because the standby line can be pretty long. So the Shinkansen Pass is the closest thing they have where you can reserve a time or claim a time that you want to go into the cafe. And the way that works is you show up at the Fairmont at the time they're giving away the passes, and you pick a time, and that's your time to return without having to wait in the standby line. I highly recommend this route if you have a busy schedule at Fanime, if there's something you want to do at a certain time, so you don't have to go by the standby line, because it will get long to get into the Maid Cafe.
But those reservation things also disappear really quick, so you gotta go and grab that first thing as soon as they make them available.
And the line also gets long for that too, because there will be people who'll be waiting like an hour or 2 hours before it opens up, just so they can get a preferred time. So I ended up scoring that, and then right before we went to the Maid Cafe, I stopped by the costly repair station. I was costing a Yukina from Bandori, and then my stockings decided to, like, oh hey, we're gonna roll off your leg. Okay, I need some double-sided tape to get this to stick to my leg. So luckily the costly repair station had adhesive tape, so I can tape that to my legs so that the stockings won't roll down. What I also liked about the costly repair station, other than the usual safety pins, the hot glue guns, they even had the wig doctor, and you can take in a wig. She can untangle it, or she can also style it, and there's a service done through the wig doctor, availability pending. So that was also pretty neat too. Jared, did you remember doing anything before
I
Maid Cafe?
don't think so, because panels, I don't think had really started yet, or if they did, there was nothing I was super interested in. But I think I was just kind of using that time to get ready for stuff. I knew I was going to have a long night that night, because that was also going to be the night for CWF. So I think I was taking a little bit more time in the room, just kind of chilling with our roommates as they slowly got ready. And I think I was at a certain point, I just walked over is anyone using the bathroom? And they're like, nope. I'm like, good. It's like, yeah, we haven't been using it for 25 minutes. So I'm like, good. Because they had a vanity area that was outside of the bathroom, and they were all using the vanity area. I thought they were all in the bathroom. So I could have gotten dressed and gotten things together a bit earlier than that, but whatever, everything worked out fine. I ended up heading downstairs, met you, we ended up doing our Maid Cafe, and I was wearing Giovanni from Pokemon, because I have to. And it's always kind of nice just being all spiffied up during that. I remember not feeling really good that morning, because just, like I said, the not having enough food and what have you just starts to get to you. But we were able to pick up these really good sandwiches, because it was done by the hotel. And nice little, I believe we both got a dessert too at the end as well.
Yes, we got this, I think it was they had a couple tarts and whatnot. I got a chocolate mousse tart, or was it chocolate mousse cake? Either way, it was chocolatey, and I liked it.
Yeah,
the Maid Cafe was really nice. You got a hearty meal out of it, so you had to pay the extra to get that hearty meal. And also, we had our maid with us, and we ended up playing games. And there was also a trivia contest for everyone at the cafe. and it was like guest set animatude. And there's a couple people in our lineup who like were able to get it like just on the first 3 notes. Like, whoa, I need to brush up.
Yeah. I knew some of the answers there, but yeah, one of the persons was just like, boom, like hand immediately up. And it's like, but I'm wondering if they just did that and then, guessed half the time and just happened to guess right. Because I'm like, I don't, or you're like some sort of weird musical memory thing. So, but that was fun, and you actually went up for that one.
Yeah, I did. And at one point, the lights decided to like just go out. And I was like, wait, are we going to have a murder mystery at the Maid Cafe? Because I'd be down for that.
That'd be a fun extra game for them to play in there.
Maid Cafe murder mystery?
Yeah, Maid Cafe real life clue.
Oh, that'd be awesome, because real life clue is becoming a thing.
Yeah, I know.
Right now, I know there's one in Anaheim on the day I can't make it to. But, hey, I'm just pitching an idea out there. I really like the setup for the Maid Cafe because it was in the Fairmont. It looked like a Fairmont ballroom, but it looked where it kind of feels like you're at this like fancy cafe, fancy club type thing. And it really feels like the Fanimades have really found their home, because I liked how it was like separated from the convention center, because like, yeah, it's kind of puts you in that atmosphere of a maid cafe. Because I think the last time you and I did it at Fanime, it was in the San Jose Convention Center, and it was just kind of like on, it wasn't even in a panel room. I think they just roped off a corner.
Yeah.
And just sold convention center food there.
Mm-hmm.
It was alright. Like, I didn't mind, but at the same time, I like this atmosphere so much more better than having it at the San Jose Convention Center.
Yeah, it's a real good move, and it has improved the Maid Cafe by leaps and bounds.
Also, we did Cosplay Wrestling Federation.
Yeah, that was later in the night. Prior to that, I actually had some fun panels I went to, including Anime Conspiracy Theories, which was these 2 girls doing a panel about how they're trying to decipher who the grand sponsor is, because they believe the grand sponsor is part of a conspiracy to take over anime, and that the grand sponsor may have mind-controlled President Obama, because President Obama had that moment where he was thanking the Japanese Prime Minister for anime and manga, and therefore he is part of the conspiracy as well. And it was great. It was done in that like over-the-top thing you might find on a tinfoil hat website, but it was done, obviously they're making a joke about that kind of mentality. And it was kind of an interesting way of doing a comedy panel where it's not just you're like, ask a character, we're going to improv. Because you don't want to do anime improv in front of me, I will say all the most inappropriate stuff to mess with you. Because you deserve it for doing anime improv. And the other one I went to was actually a New Japan Pro Wrestling panel that was also hosted by 2 ladies, which was kind of a surprise. They were talking about how there's a huge female audience in Japan and in America.
Well, sweaty guys.
Yeah, I know. And they play it, and they play that up. They even talked about how they play it up. They glisten the guys as much as they can. And they were playing a few matches and what have you. And I was like, need to get to the CWF press like meetup, but want to watch wrestling match.
We'll make that happen at CarX, where you can watch your first New Japan Pro Wrestling
live.
Yeah,
I've seen recorded matches multiple times, but it was like a really good match, and it was like yeah, this match will go on. They're like looking at the time, like, do we have time for the other one? Like, this one goes on for another 5 more minutes. I think we do. I'm like, okay, I'll just finish this match. 5 more minutes. It's cool. Saw the end and like ran downstairs. Stumbled into Matt from Sacktown, who was there to covering his press as well, and his team, and then was talking to some of the wrestlers, doing my press duties. And then we headed up to do CWF Fanimania, woo, which was crazy.
We got front row seats to an awesome adventure in wrestling. So, let's see. Current title holder, Francisco Von Karma, had some pretty tough competition out there. Let's see, according to the roster, this year we had Skeletor make his triumphant entrance into Fanimania. Yeah. That was a surprise, wasn't it?
It was. He's normally was doing things in the SAC Anime, or the Blackout League is what they call it, and making it into the big leagues, or what do you want to call it, the Championship League. I don't know if there's a proper term for this one versus that one. I know that one's called Blackout, but he made his way in there and was ready to throw down, and everyone, because this was a Northern California event, knows Skeletor, knows all the Skeletor chants, so Skeletor basically had a built-in audience, which is very helpful. However, we had Mario did a show up there for a little bit.
I was quite surprised, like, oh, hey, Mario's back.
Heather Mason made a surprise appearance, and that's always interesting to have her just show up and threaten everybody. We also had...
We had Sailor Moon come back.
Sailor Moon was there to do a quick promo, because now she is the champion of the SAC Anime League. And we had All Might... And he wasn't the only My Hero character, because we also had Mrs. Midoriya.
She was adorable. I liked
great.
her. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed.
She was very much Team Mom wrestler. It was amazing. We had a surprise tag team matchup with Jigen and Lupin, as we referenced earlier, going up against Great Saiyaman and Moomin Rider, which was a very interesting showdown. But once those two showed up, and I'd seen them before doing solo stuff, I'm like, oh man, this Lupin and Jigen, like they're pretty slick. And it was so one-sided. It was kind of sad. I was like, oh.
And the Lupin and Jigen, they were just spot on. They were like some of the most spot on Lupin cosplayers I've ever encountered. And let me tell you, I've been cosplaying Lupin the Third since, my second Fanime 2004, and like, just mad props to all of y'all. You did an amazing job, and you are like my headcanon Lupin and Jigen.
He reminds me of an old friend of mine that I used to meet up with at Anime Expo, Lanza. I only know his online name is Lanza. And seeing him like, God, it looks just like Lanza. I'm like, I don't think it's Lanza, though. But they were so good. It was so one-sided. I'm like, whoever's going to take them on for a tag team is going to have a real steep hill to climb. Overall, it was pretty good. I mean, we did see some of our same people we've seen multiple times. Mr. Satan was there again. Some of the crazier characters, I do kind of miss some of the crazier characters, but in terms of craziest duos who somehow aren't part of the tag division for some reason, Reality and Coach Connors became a unit.
Real wrestling.
Real wrestling. That was something. That was something that I think makes this panel like need to have an 18 plus entry thing from now on, because that was a bit much. The audience is always so hype for Fanimania, and having even them trying to choose the winner became difficult. Skeletor again had that huge advantage being, that everyone knows the Skeletor chants, and he was a previous champion.
Yeah, it was Skeletor versus All Might versus Francisca.
Yep, in a triple threat match.
I thought it was gonna be Mario, because Mario gets a lot of love from the audience, and I thought it was gonna be Mario in place of All Might.
But I think they did Mario in there so they could promote, because they did another wrestling match between him and Phoenix Wright, tag team match, physical wrestling match at SAC Anime. So because they did another physical one, I think the whole point was there for him to, bring that up, instead of just making Sailor Moon pop up and give her promo for, hey, SAC Anime, and then Mario come up, hey, SAC Anime, you have him be an actual contestant, and then lose and start yelling about it, and like, being told, fine, you get your rematch with Phoenix Wright. How about that? And he was like, fine, I'll do that then. But yeah, Mario gets his love, and the rivalry they've built between Mario and Phoenix has been really great, and definitely one of the highlights of any event when they can both show up and start ripping on each other. But yeah, it was a really great event, and it's very hard to kind of convey all the hype and energy that goes into a live CWF event. Even if you watch the video feed, you're really not going to get the same feeling as if you're actually there. And I really do recommend this, because you don't need to be a wrestling fan, and you don't really need to be anything other than someone who wants to watch cosplayers give over-the-top promos and then start like ripping on each other. And it's great, and it's a lot of fun. It's a show I've always wanted to be a part of, and hopefully will soon. I've had friends who've done this, plenty of friends who've done this, and they all have a lot of fun. And they don't reveal the character list before the event. So you could be returning characters you already know. It could be characters that are brand new, ready to make a debut. Because we got like weird ones, like Guy Fieri was a character this year. And I'm like, what? I mean, okay, yeah, I know.
It's the same dude who does Billy Mays.
Yeah, it is. And I think he got ripped on for that a few times because people made fun of him for being knockoff Billy Mays. But there was stuff like that, but I'm like, that's an odd choice. But you know what? That's kind of the fun of this. Like, who would have guessed Mrs. Midoriya would have been someone choosing that for the show? And while there's characters who haven't made it into CWF yet for one reason or another, like I don't think Link has ever been in there. We've had very few Final Fantasy characters. I think Gladio, and I think we maybe have had a Noctis, and that's about it. And I think this year we only Marvel character we had this year was just Winter Soldier. I don't think we had any other Marvel characters around. I was kind of surprised. I thought Endgame would have upped the number of Marvel characters. So you get a huge variety. Sometimes it's anime, sometimes it's American media, sometimes it's real life people. Tommy Wiseau showed up, which is always great. Plus, because we're very close to his hometown of... oh wait, no, his hometown's New Orleans. Never mind. I was thinking San Francisco, but no, he's originally from New Orleans. As we all know.
New Orleans.
Totally New Orleans.
New Orleans, really?
So there's a great variety of stuff. Definitely always looking forward to seeing what the new competition will be. And the next major event for them is... Okay, the next event in this line for this belt is Anime Expo. And of course, after we're recording this, or as we're recording this, or what have you, SAC Anime has occurred. So you can actually go watch that as well if you're interested in the SAC Anime competition, which tends to get crazy because they usually have a actual wrestling ring for all the characters to do their promos in, which adds a whole nother layer to the event and always makes it great. And if you are a fan of CWF, they actually are now starting a kind of a crowdfunding campaign so they can expand more, not only getting more props and stuff like that for the shows, but to also fly out to further cons to try to conquer the West Coast with cosplay wrestling goodness. So you can check that out. All the information is on their Facebook page, Cosplay Wrestling Federation, and it's also where you can find all their social media stuff and their YouTube links and all that, all of that as well. And we really do recommend that. If you're a fan, check it out. If you're curious about what the shows are like, go to their Facebook page, find the links to their Twitch and YouTube channels, watch some promos, watch some actual shows. I bet you're going to get into it as well. And if you think you get into it while watching it on a computer, you will doubly get into it when you're actually at the show.
All right, let's move on to Day 4. What happened on Day 4 again?
Day 4 doesn't have a lot in terms of panel programming. I basically went to one panel called...
All the panels are over by noon.
Yeah, all the panels are over by noon. I only saw one that was kind of worth going to, which was a Waluigi panel, and it was done by the same guys who do the 5th gen or not Pokemon, and they basically just talked about how they kept pitching to Nintendo different real existing games that needed a Waluigi. So they had like Grand Theft Auto featuring Waluigi and Call of Duty featuring Waluigi and a Star Fox was featuring Waluigi and stuff like that. And it was a funny, silly panel. They did all these photoshops of Luigi and Waluigi in various games. Even did little video clips, kind of fake. Like, oh, and here's a clip from our meeting. And it's clearly them, but one of them's like wearing a wig. And they're just doing the whole like, hey, so what do you think of our Waluigi ideas? What are you doing in my office? We gave you those Waluigi ideas to make a Waluigi game. Pulls up his phone. Security. Get up to my office. There's a weirdo. Yeah, it's the same one. Yeah, can you just get him? It's like, so obviously that pitch meeting didn't go well. And it was just a silly, like, who cares? It's the last day panel. And it was fun. They only had 2 panel rooms open. I mean, there was almost no programming. It was really just more about wandering the dealer hall for those last minute deals. I got lost in the Gunpla section because, of course, I did. I almost came home with a SD Crossbones Gundam, but I decided against it at the last second. I know that's when you grabbed a last couple of little knickknacks as well.
I actually did an Artist Alley sweep. I know I didn't mention too much about Artist Alley. Artist Alley at Fanime, I really miss the old Artist Alley where I felt like there was a lot more variety, like styles of dealers and artists, whereas Fanime is very heavy on prints and charms, and I do like me some charms. I actually got a couple of Saber charms for my car, because yeah, I like to deck out my car all Saberly, and I also even got a decal for the back of my car of Saber. There was one artist from Japan that just really stood out, and she had like all of these very stylized designs, like think clamp, think of that clover kind of style, very flowy, very flowery, a lot of details, a lot of flowing dresses, and she had that aesthetic to her, and I kind of like missed this aesthetic, and she had like interpretations of fairy tales, goddesses, angels, gothic Lolita fashion, and she also did a set where you had like birthstones. And like, okay, I really like this aesthetic, and I'm really happy that we have someone from overseas who traveled all the way from Japan for this. And so I ended up just grabbing a couple of her things and just thanking her for coming here because I just feel bad because I don't know the artist name off the top of my head. She's far more active on Facebook than she is on Instagram. I'm just trying to think what's the Japanese word for mushroom?
I don't actually know that.
Okay, it actually is Shiitake Gensodo. So if you look for Shiitake Gensodo on Facebook, that is the artist name. So I highly recommend it because the reason how I remember the name of it, it's just like a mushroom, shiitake mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she was my favorite out of all the artists in there, and I think her work just really stood out. But I just don't like just the crowded and just the overcrowdingness that I feel in the artist alley, and I really miss the old artist alley a lot. But that's just my opinion.
I agree with that too. I didn't even go into the artist alley because I just peeked my head in the door and said, "Nope, that's too many people.
Nope.
I'll just sit out here and I'll just chill with one of our roomies and talk about stuff." So we did.
Mm-hmm. I ended up doing a Tokyo Mew Mew photo shoot with a couple of my gal pals and my buddy Bart. So that was a lot of fun. I got to cosplay Zakuro, and this is a character I've been wanting to cosplay since since I was early college, I want to say. So I ended up cosplaying as that lone wolf, and it's so interesting because I talk about cosplaying as Zakuro on my Instagram. Again, kind of still getting to use to that whole idea of having cosplay followers. Like, oh my god, I love Tokyo Mew Mew. I like it too. Hey, let's all cosplay Tokyo Mew Mew. Sure, I'll do the maid outfit next. So that was a lot of fun, and also which prompted me to watch episodes of Mew Mew Power because our pudding, she got into watching the 4Kids adaptation Mew Mew Power. It's you know what? It's not a bad adaptation. That's what she told me. So, you know what? Let me just revisit it. And, you know what? It's not too bad of an adaptation. It's especially some of the other suffering that some other 4Kids properties had to go through. Because I know this was the case in One Piece. Because they had that epic rap song at the start of it. Among other things. But, no, I just kind of watched a couple of episodes of Mew Mew Powers. It's not too bad. Anywho. But, Monday was just kind of our last chance to say goodbyes to friends, yeah, see you later. And then we just took the lift into San Jose Airport.
At the airport a little early, I think, than we planned, but that allowed us to go and have food. That allowed us to relax before our flight and not feel rushed. And yeah, don't expect a lot of stuff for day 4. Your basically options are 2 hours worth of panels and closing ceremonies.
In closing ceremonies, they usually move that into the San Jose Convention Center in the karaoke room. I'm surprised they don't do it at Stage 0.
Stage 0 is where they used to do it. I think they should just bring it back to Stage 0.
Anyway, so Jared, your final thoughts on Fanime 2019.
Well, despite my health issues I was dealing with throughout the con, which is not the convention's fault at all, I actually really enjoyed myself. I liked running my 3 panels. I was thinking that, last year, we'd get that emergency call of, we have a person who just dropped out, can you please? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do Final Fantasy as a last-minute panel, let's do it. But that didn't happen, and that's okay. I actually really like running panels at Fanime, especially if I'm in the Fairmonts, because it makes running panels easier for me. But I also like people seem to be in a good mood. There's a few bad apples. I really don't like walking around with the food vendor people, because it just has that rotten smell. The protesters get irritating. And there's a few times where cameramen were blocking walk space that kind of drove me up the wall, but not as bad as other cons I've been to where that's a real problem. I love Stage 0, the gaming room is great, and yeah, we skipped Silver Island, but everyone who went to it came back massively disappointed. So, thankfully, we didn't take the trip to the Doubletree, nor do we recommend taking the trip to the Doubletree. Unless you're staying in the Doubletree, then yeah, go knock yourself out. But anyone else, don't waste your time. It's probably not worth it. Maybe they'll upgrade it in the future, who knows. But I think there's enough stuff going on at the convention. And the panels will go on to 1 or 2 in the morning. You have plenty of content and stuff to do that you're not going to have to worry about, oh, can I also go watch the porns? So that's kind of my feelings overall. And my suggestion is Fanime will be really based on what you decide to do. If you're a cosplay person and all you want to do is gatherings, you'll have plenty of stuff to do. If you like being entertained between Stage 0, karaoke, the dance, panels, you have plenty of options. And if you're someone who is, gonna be a gloomy Gus the whole time, well, you gotta get out and do stuff because that's the way you have fun. The fun isn't gonna come to you. You have to go to the fun. I guess that's kind of my rule for Fanime.
Fanime was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed my Fanime 2019. However, I think what kind of dampened some of my experience was the Fairmont not restocking and also not having that refrigerator. Because having that refrigerator, I would have been able to, just kind of, okay, I could, just snack on some of my salads. I actually did bring string cheese with me to the con, because, yeah, it's a healthy snack, and it kind of keeps me going. And just having, just a lemonade or just something in there just kind of keep me going. Because I don't like having... I'm not in college anymore where I have to resort to instant ramen. I mean, I like to have my salads in there. I like to have something healthy in there. And I'd like to have stuff to eat rather than just constantly be drinking soda to keep my energy level up. Because I don't like to live like that. And also the fact that, just kind of a tidbit for Fanime, a lot of the food places, they close, after, 9, 10 o'clock, so plan your dinner accordingly. And if you're going to eat after 9, 10 o'clock, there's just a lot of the more expensive food places in the hotels, so I really don't recommend that. I mean, we were lucky, because one time we were really desperate for food, after, 10, 11 o'clock, and thankfully, the panelist lounge, they had pizza. And I was very thankful for that. So shout out to the Panelist Lounge for having late night Little Caesars pizza. That really saved our butts.
I think it was Round Table.
Oh, Round Table?
Yeah.
I haven't had Round Table pizza in the longest time. Are they still around?
Yeah.
Oh, did not know that.
There's a couple in Orange County. We used to go to them.
Ah, I see. I missed that. They had an artisan pizza I really liked, but I forgot what it's called because it's just been a while since I've had Round Table pizza. But, alright. So I think a lot of my enjoyment would have been much better served if, again, the toilet paper situation with the Fairmont, not having to go down all the way downstairs to use the bathroom, and just kind of, it's just you'd be surprised just how the little things just really get to you, especially with the older you get, because, you can't live off soda during an entire con, you can't live off ramen during an entire weekend, but thankfully, there were places close to us where we can, have, real food for, lunch and dinner. But just kind of something to be cognizant about the older you get at these conventions, because ramen and ramune is not going to cut it. But overall, I liked what programming I did attend. I kind of thought the panels were just hit and miss. One panel I didn't mention, but I'll go into it in more detail on our convention report, is the Magical Girl LGBTQ panel. And the panelists, they covered a lot about LGBTQ elements in Magical Girl anime, and that was a lot of fun. It was very informative, and really made me just start really thinking about, a lot of things with the shoujo animes that I really enjoyed, or I might have brushed off, oh yeah, they're just friends, whatever. But, then again, she brought up, oh, but take a look closer at these symbols, take a look closer at these meanings, oh, hey, that's interesting. And because of that panel, now I want to check out Nanoha. I'm currently watching Lesbian Bear Storm, which is a trip within itself. It's Ikuhara in his Ikuhara Est, if that's ever a thing, but if you're into Yuri, I highly recommend Lesbian Bear Storm, because it is amazing stuff, and the bears are so cute. But overall, I had fun cosplaying at Fanime. I had fun seeing all the friends I've been meaning to see again. Fanime is my excuse to see college buddies again. And it's always just kind of cool just seeing how this convention is growing and just really changing for better or for worse. I agree that Silver Island was a good idea on paper. It's nice to have, a section of, adult programming. But it just didn't seem well executed. But at the same time, you have, just other programming. CWF just keeps getting better and better. You have, educational tier programming, the LGBTQ panel that I had mentioned earlier. And you also had, the fun programming, the Anime Conspiracy panel that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jared, would you recommend this con?
I would. Just, be prepared for what this con's going to throw at you, because you need to be ready with, food plans. You need to be ready with, I would even say pre-scheduling everything you want to do, because
the Fanime app is very helpful in that regard. Instead of, having a schedule, paper schedule right in front of you, I thought that having the Fanime app on my phone, I could look up times, I can set alerts and reminders whenever something I was interested in came up. So it's pretty helpful to have that handy dandy guide. I recommend Fanime to, of course, Bay Area people. It is the largest anime convention in the San Francisco Bay Area. If you're from Southern California, it's an easy 5-hour drive up. And also, since in the United States it is a 3-day weekend, it's like, might as well spend your Memorial Day weekend just having fun with fandom. Also, if you're coming from out of state, because I do meet people who don't want to do like the hassle that is Anime Expo, but just want to come out to Fanime, just kind of like, just enjoy the fun fandom side and not worry about like something big like Anime Expo that has a huge industry presence, and just to check out just the fandom side and just not worry about guest of honor or like anything else that's industry focused. And if you just want to have fun with fans and just kind of want to just meet new people, make new friends, Fanime is a good con to just try from out of state. Fanime is a good con to try if you're from out of state, if you're curious. Again, having that 3-day weekend also helps out. And just kind of just seeing a side of California. I really like downtown San Jose. Unfortunately, the Bay Area has been plagued with homeless people, but downtown San Jose doesn't have much of that, thankfully, and hopefully it'll stay that way. It's a really nice area. It's relatively safe, so there were times when you and I were, like, walking, like, across the street, like, at 11 o'clock in the evening. There's a lot of people walking around from the convention, so you always feel like you have someone, you will always feel you have someone at the con who's watching your back. Also, the rain didn't really affect the con, as, like, people were freaking out about it. Because Fanime was scheduled to have rain throughout the weekend, but like people were kind of freaking out about that. But there wasn't much rain. All right, so I guess this wraps up this episode of 0 Hour.
It does.
What's next for us, Jared?
Well, next will be Anime Expo.
Yay! They have an Azure Lane panel in one of the smallest rooms. Sad face.
And we are running no panels, so we don't have to stress about that. So at least that's a bonus.
We're staying at the Millennium Biltmore, which supposedly has like some of the best Art Deco drinks in downtown Los Angeles.
Alright.
And also afternoon tea, so maybe not. We'll see how the schedule goes, because part of the schedule is up for Anime Expo on the Anime Expo app. Anime Expo, Anime Expo, Anime Expo. So again, remember, the con is what you make of it, so make it a good one. We will see you at the con.